I am dead. At that moment, my soul left my body. Looking down, I saw myself lying motionless. Around me, my loved ones were crying. But the most horrifying thing was yet to come. An invisible force pulled me into a dark tunnel. Ahead, a bright beam of light appeared. A voice echoed, not human, but full of authority. "My child, do you know why you have been poor your whole life?" I was stunned. Poor? I had worked hard, constantly striving, never giving up. So why was God asking me that? I faced the Almighty. And I saw the truth about my life. A truth that might also be affecting you. If you've ever wondered, why am I still poor even though I've tried my best? Then don't go anywhere. I'm about to reveal what I've learned. And it could change your life forever. I had never thought about death. Until it arrived without warning. Suddenly, I felt light, free from pain or burden. I looked down and saw myself lying there. Pale, breathing weakly. While my family surrounded me in tears. They cried out my name, shaking me awake. But I was no longer in that body. When the doctor shook his head and gave up, I realized I was truly dead. But death was not the end. An invisible force pulled me upwards. Everything around me blurred. The sounds grew distant. And all that remained was a strange sensation. A peacefulness mixed with fear. Then, before me, a tunnel appeared. It was pitch black as if it swallowed all light. But deep inside, something was radiating a magical light. A warm, gentle light, yet powerful. As if it were beckoning me. I was drawn toward the light, unable to resist. The deeper I went, the more familiar the feeling became. Something I couldn't name. But it brought an infinite sense of comfort. And then, I saw them. My deceased loved ones. They stood there. In front of the bright light, with peaceful smiles. My grandfather, who had passed when I was young. My mother, who I never got to say a final goodbye to. Even an old friend, who had died in a tragic accident. They didn't speak, just smiled gently. No one told me to stop. No one told me to go forward. But I knew this path was mine alone. I kept walking. The light grew brighter. An energy enveloped me, an indescribable feeling. Both happiness and terror. I felt the presence of something greater than anything I had ever known. Then, I heard that voice. It wasn't like any voice on earth. It didn't carry the tone of a man or woman, but echoed from deep within me, as if it had always been there. My child, have you ever thought that your poverty was destined? That question struck my mind like a lightning bolt. I was stunned. Poor? My whole life I worked hard. I tried. I endured. I wasn't lazy. I didn't give up. Why was God asking me that? Without giving me time to think, the light before me suddenly changed. A giant picture appeared, stretching before me like a film of my own life. I saw myself as a child. A scared little kid who was always afraid. When hearing my parents talk about money, always taught that money is evil. That rich people are greedy. I saw myself growing up, carrying those wrong beliefs, rejecting opportunities, accepting a life of poverty as a given. I saw each of my decisions. The times I convinced myself I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve more. The times I feared standing before life, changing opportunities. The times I said, I can't do it. Everything was so clear now. I was poor. Not because of fate. I realized that poverty wasn't inevitable, but a result of my own beliefs and choices. But that wasn't the most shocking part. As I got closer to the light, I encountered the Great One. The one who revealed the painful truth about my life. I stood before that great light. My heart pounding, not out of fear, but because of a deep awakening. I understood. I saw clearly why I had been poor my entire life. But I still didn't know how to change my fate. And then, that authoritative voice spoke again. Have you seen? You are the one who has created your own poverty. I was silent. A storm raged inside my mind. I couldn't argue. I couldn't find a way to justify myself. What I had just seen was so clear. It wasn't because of my parents. It wasn't because of society. It wasn't because of fate. It was because of me. I was poor not because God made me poor, but because I carried limiting beliefs. Fears that had deeply rooted themselves in my subconscious. From a young age, I had believed that rich people were greedy, that having money was wrong. I was afraid of it. I pushed it away. And then, I bound myself to poverty. God said to me, money doesn't make a person good or bad. It is just a tool. The problem is not with money, but with how you use it. Wealthy people can do many good things. If their hearts are pure, they can help, create value, change the world. But poor people, bound by fear, are sometimes even more selfish, because they don't have enough to give. For the first time, I realized that poverty didn't make me humble. It just made me powerless. God raised his hand, and I saw another image. The people who started poor, just like me, but they did things differently. They had nothing in their hands, but they had something I had never had. The belief that they deserved a better life. They weren't afraid of money. They weren't afraid of failure. They didn't say, I can't do it. They said, I will find a way. God said to me, when you think you can't, you've closed the door to yourself. I suddenly remembered the past. How many opportunities came to me, but I rejected them because I thought I wasn't good enough, smart enough, or lucky enough. But the truth is, I never really tried. God raised his hand again. I saw the times when I complained, envied, and blamed life. I had always compared myself to others, thinking they were luckier, that life was unfair. But I never really gave. God said, rich people are not just wealthy because they are good at making money. They are rich because they create value for others. They give before receiving. I used to be selfish. I kept negative thoughts, lived in resentment, and the universe simply reflected that back to me. I suddenly realized, if I want to change my life, I must change myself first. I knelt before that great light. I understood. I truly understood. No one can pull me out of poverty if I don't want to step out myself. No God, no miracle can change me if I don't change my thoughts and actions. God said the final words before I left. Now you know. The only question is, are you ready to change? At that moment, a blinding light covered me. I felt myself being pulled back, falling into an endless abyss. And then I opened my eyes. I was back. I was still alive. But I was no longer the same person. I understood the truth, and knew that I must act right now. I always thought that when I died, everything would end. But no. Death is just the door to another world. A world I never imagined. After facing God and hearing the fateful question, now do you understand? Poverty is not fate, but a choice. I thought I had understood everything. I had seen my mistakes, the limiting beliefs that had bound me all my life. But there was still one thing I hadn't fully grasped. God wanted me to witness the final consequence of these choices. And then, I was taken to a place I never thought I would step into. Before me were two doors. One door opened to a brilliant light, where the sound of happy laughter and graceful melodies echoed. The air there was gentle, filled with love. The other door was darker. A heavy air emanated, gloomy, filled with sighs and mournful cries. But no one answered. A chilling sensation ran down my spine. God spoke. You will not understand the meaning of the light if you have never known the darkness. Walk through the second door and look closely. I took a deep breath, stepping into that place with a heart full of fear. When the door closed behind me, I immediately felt an invisible weight press down on me. There was no blazing fire, no demons with tridents. But there was something far scarier than all of that. The torment and regret that never ends. The soul sat huddled in the darkness, with lifeless eyes, muttering complaints. If only I dared to try. Why did I let fear control me? I had the chance, but I didn't believe I deserved it. I saw them, people who were once like me. They weren't poor because of fate, but because they had bound themselves in fear. They had countless opportunities to change, but always rejected them because they thought they couldn't. And now, they are forever trapped in regret. No one forced them here. They trapped themselves in the hell they created. God said, they are not punished by any force. They are simply living the results of what they believed and acted upon while alive. I shuddered. If I hadn't had this opportunity, if I hadn't witnessed this truth, would I have been one of those souls sitting there? The darkness gradually faded. I was pulled away once again. And this time, I stepped into an entirely different world. An open sky, brilliantly bright. Magnificent houses. Lush green fields stretched out. Here, I saw smiling, happy people. No one worried, no one was afraid. I immediately felt the difference between them and the souls in the darkness. They were not only rich in material things, but also rich in spirit. They had lived with strong will, dared to dream, dared to act. They were not afraid of money, because they understood that it was just a tool. One person approached me with a warm gaze. Money is not evil. Poverty is not fate. It's all a reflection of each person's mindset and actions. They were people who knew how to seize opportunities, who knew how to give value. They didn't just make themselves wealthy, but also helped others. And now, they lived in abundance. Not only in material wealth but also in spirit. God spoke again. Look, this is the difference between the poor and the rich. It's not destiny, but how they think and act. I was stunned. For so many years, I had misunderstood. I thought that wealth or poverty was due to luck, due to circumstances. But the truth is, it all comes from within me. I don't know how long I stood there, but I know I was no longer the same. God spoke to me for the last time. Now you know. So what will you do with this truth? I was silent. Then I whispered, I will change. I don't want to live a life of fear anymore. I don't want to be bound by the limits I have set for myself. I will dare to think differently. Dare to act differently. Dare to believe that I deserve a better life. I opened my eyes. I had returned. But this time, I knew I would live differently. No more blaming. No more fear. No more saying, I can't do it. Because I know. Heaven or hell. Wealth or poverty. It's all in my choice. And now, the question is, how will you choose? Are you ready to change? Step out of the darkness of fear and start living a life rich in both material and spirit. The first breath after returning was unlike any breath before. I didn't just return to the world. I returned with an entirely new mind. Death had changed me. But not just that experience. What I saw, the lost souls in hell. They created for themselves. The people living in abundance in heaven. All of it deeply imprinted on me a new awareness. I realized something incredibly important. Life is not a punishment or a reward from God. It's the result of the choices we make every day. I used to live like a victim. Blaming fate. Blaming circumstances. But now, I know I am the only one who can change my destiny. Before I died, I thought poverty was fate. I used to believe some people were born lucky, while others suffered. And I was in the second group. But now, I understand that poverty is not fate, it's a state of mind. I saw souls trapped in the darkness of poverty. They couldn't escape. Not because they didn't have opportunities, but because they didn't dare to take them. They lived in fear, in the limiting thoughts they had created themselves. And I used to be like that. On the other hand, in heaven, I saw people in abundance. They weren't rich just because they had money, but because they had an entirely different mindset. They didn't run from opportunities. They weren't afraid of challenges. They knew their worth, and they were ready to take action. For the first time in my life, I understood. Poverty is a state of mind. If I continue to believe I will be poor, I will be poor. Wealth is not just about money. It's about courage, perseverance, and a positive mindset. God does not create the rich or the poor. Only we decide that through what we believe and act on. I returned with a new awareness. But awareness isn't enough, I must change. And change can't just be words in my mind. It must be expressed through actions. I began by doing what I had never dared to do before. Face my fears. I used to be afraid of failure, so I didn't dare try. Now, I understand that each failure is a step closer to success. I used to be afraid of judgment, so I didn't dare show myself. Now, I know that no one can decide my worth except me. I used to be afraid of change, so I clung to safety. Now, I understand that no safety is greater than knowing I can control my own life. I began to seek opportunities instead of avoiding them. I learned the mindset of successful people. I observed how they act. I learn. I practice. And most importantly, I take action. The near-death experience not only gave me a lesson, it gave me a map for change. I began applying the principles I learned from that journey. No more fear of money. I once thought money was the root of all evil. But now I understand that money is just a tool. It's neither good nor bad. It all depends on how we use it. Dare to embrace opportunities. I no longer say, I can't do it, but instead say, how can I do it? No more blaming, no more complaining. When faced with difficulty, I don't blame anymore. I ask myself, what's the lesson here? How can I do better next time? Living with the spirit of giving. I understand that wealthy people are not rich just because they know how to make money, but because they know how to create value. I no longer hold the mindset of only receiving, but have learned to give. Grateful for life. Every day, I wake up with gratitude. I no longer complain about what I don't have, but focus on what I have and what I can create. I am not just changing for myself. I want to share this with everyone. I once lived in scarcity, in fear, and I know there are millions of people out there just like me. They are bound by wrong thinking, limited by invisible fears. But I want them to know that they can change, as long as they dare to believe and take action. I started talking to those around me, sharing what I had learned. I helped them, not only with words but by guiding them step by step. And the miracle happened. The people who listened to me, applied what I shared, they too changed. They found better jobs. They dared to try things they never thought possible. They started businesses. They began earning money. And most importantly, they no longer live as victims of fate. I used to think I was unlucky, that life was a long series of challenges I couldn't overcome. But now, I understand that each challenge has its reason. And every person has the right to change their own fate. If you are listening to this story, if you have ever felt trapped in the endless cycle of life, I want you to know one thing. You can change. You are not a victim of fate. You are the creator of your own destiny. Start today. Dare to trust. Dare to act. And then you will see. Life is more wonderful than you imagined. Since I came back, I no longer look at life the way I used to. Everything around me is still the same. The same room. The same world. But I know that what has changed is me. Every morning I wake up, I no longer feel discouraged or fearful about the future. I no longer worry about money like I used to. Because I understand that what matters most is not how much money I have, but how I think about it. I started trying things I never dared to do before. I no longer hesitate to make money, because I know the value I create will determine how much I receive. I look for opportunities, no longer afraid of failure, because I understand that every fall is a lesson that helps me move forward. I changed the way I treat money. No longer spending mindlessly. No longer thinking that, if I have money, I should spend it all. Now, I know that money is a tool, and I must learn to use it wisely. But most importantly, I no longer let fear control me. I used to fear not being good enough. Fear being judged by others. Fear of failure. But now, I see the truth. There are only two kinds of people in this world. Those who let fear stop them, and those who dare to walk through it. I chose to be the second type. I'm not the only one who feels this transformation. My family, my friends, they see the difference in me. Not only in how I speak, but in how I live. I am no longer a person filled with anxiety and dissatisfaction with life. I am full of energy, proactive, and have a strong belief that I can control my destiny. I started sharing with them what I had learned. At first, some were skeptical. But when they saw me taking action, when they saw me change, they wanted to try. And then, the miracle happened. A friend of mine, who once feared business, dared to start their own venture and succeeded. A relative of mine, who always complained about circumstances, learned to be grateful and changed their view on life. A colleague of mine, who lived in fear of failure, dared to try new things and found their own path. I realized that my change not only helped me, but it also spread to those around me. Although everything remained the same, the sun still rose. The world still moved on. I felt something completely different. I was no longer a victim of life. I once thought I was an ordinary person, incapable of changing my fate. But now, I understand that everything I've been through is the result of my own thoughts and actions. And if I can change, anyone can change. I no longer see life as a series of harsh trials. I see it as a wonderful journey, where each day I have the opportunity to become a better version of myself. I no longer fear the challenges ahead, because I know that every trial is a lesson for me to grow. And most importantly, I am grateful for the chance to see this truth before it's too late. If you're reading this, I believe you're also looking for something. Maybe you felt stuck, felt life is unfair, felt like you can't change your destiny. But I want you to know, you can change. You are not a victim of fate. You are not bound by circumstances. You don't need to wait for a miracle, because you are the miracle. Everything in this life begins with the way you think. If you change your mindset, you will change your actions. And if you change your actions, you will change the outcome of your life. Don't let fear control you anymore. Step out of your comfort zone. Dare to try. Believe that you deserve a better life. And remember, heaven or hell, wealth or poverty, they are all in your choice. Now, the only question is, are you ready to step out of your comfort zone? If you're ready, start today. Don't wait until tomorrow. Don't wait until you have perfect conditions. Start with what you have, and you will see that life will open up miraculous doors you never imagined. I once lived in the darkness of poverty, of fear, and of false beliefs. I once thought that fate had decided everything, that some people were born to be rich, and others, like me, were doomed to live in scarcity forever. But a near-death experience showed me another truth. I realized that I wasn't poor because of fate, but because of my own thoughts and choices. When I saw souls trapped in regret, I realized that the scariest thing wasn't death, but living a life that, in the end, only leaves you with regret. I saw people living in wealth and abundance, not because they were luckier, but because they dared to think differently, dared to act differently, and dared to believe they deserved a better life. If you have also felt stuck, if you have wondered why you remain poor despite trying, I want you to know that you can change. You don't need to wait for a miracle. You don't need to wait for someone to save you. God has given you the greatest gift, the gift of choice. You can choose to continue living with fear, with the limits you have created for yourself. Or you can choose to believe you deserve a better life, and you have the right to create it. Stop complaining. Stop blaming circumstances. Stop saying, "I can't," and start asking, "How can I?" I had a second chance. And I know not everyone is that lucky. But you don't need to go through death to understand this truth. You can start today. Right now. Be brave enough to step out of your comfort zone. Open your heart and mind to embrace a new mindset. And remember that life always rewards those who dare to believe, dare to act, and dare to change. Are you ready? And if one day, when your life changes, when you look back and realize that it all started from this moment, from the decision you make right now, I hope you will remember my story. Because you are not only changing your life, but you may inspire others to change the world. Start now. Your new life is waiting for you to step into it. Thank you for listening. If you're still here at this moment, you're probably looking for a change too. I hope this story has helped you see your own new path. Remember that you are never alone. I've been where you are, and I understand how it feels. But if I can change, so can you. You just need to dare to believe and dare to act. If this story means something to you, please share it with your loved ones. Who knows? It may become a spark that lights someone else's path, just as it changed mine. Once again, thank you. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for being ready to change your life. I wish you always stay strong, always dare to dream, and always be ready to embrace the wonderful things life has for you. See you on the journeys ahead.